Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confident Musician Show. My name is Brett Cusack, musician, mindset mentor, and in this video today we're going to be sharing 5 pro tips of what to do when you lose all inspiration for music. And just so you know, the Confident Musician is where we help musicians to overcome self-doubt and overwhelm and create more confidence than they ever thought possible so they can make music and make a difference out there in the world. But without further ado, let's get into our content today. We're going to share 5 tips for you to test out there in the real world. And if you like anything in this video, please type it in the comments and let us know what makes sense to you and what you're going to go out there and test. And if you find somebody who's lost a bit of inspiration with music, maybe this video might be worth sharing across to them in a DM or tag them in this video. Alrighty, 5 pro tips, here we go. Tip number 1 is the fact that we never lose inspiration. It just transforms into something else. So inspiration is unlimited, but what we need to understand is that it transforms as we get older. When we're a little kid, toys and playing is the most inspirational thing. Then in our teens, it might be like socializing or making ourselves look as beautiful as we can. Or potentially, for me, it might be, yes, socializing. And I guess I got into music and playing in my bands. And as we evolve, things change. So it's never that we've lost inspiration. It's that it's just transformed into something new. So this brings us to tip number 2, is to get clear about what your current priorities are and what your current values are. And so when you actually stop to actually check in and actually figure out what's actually important to you, you'll start to realize that that's where your inspiration has gone. And so it's never what's happening, it's what we're making it mean that makes the biggest difference in the way we feel and think throughout our lives. So with tip number 2, what we've got to do is list the top 4 or 5 things that you can stay focused on for hours and hours and hours. Nobody has to remind you to do them, and that you are self-starting in these areas. So when we actually figure out what our life's actually demonstrating, we're probably finding that we're inspired by those things. So if we're in our 40s, we may have some kids or an important job that's taking all of our inspiration and focus, and then we're feeling like we've lost music, but actually creating a career or providing for a family or whatever it might be is actually higher on our priority list. The good news is that we can change our priorities and change our life in the direction of the things that we would like to know or would like to do more of, but we need to be, first of all, aware of where our inspiration is at the moment. So that's tip number 2, is to get clear with your current priorities. And in my course below, the Confidence and Happiness Secrets for Musicians, there's a tool to actually help you get really clear about it. It's not just one question that I asked you there, it's actually 12 questions, like there are 12 notes in music, to actually help you get really clear about what's actually important to you at the moment. Tip number 3 is to list the benefits of tackling whatever challenges you're facing in that space to learn and grow. So if you've lost inspiration for music, you're probably at a point in your career where you're at this precipice of learning some new skills. So maybe you've learned the guitar and now you're ready to write your first song. Be like, oh, you don't know how to do that. Or maybe you've written your first song and now you don't know how to get it onto Spotify. So now you're at this point. So now you might be stuck. Or you might have released some songs on Spotify, but now you're not getting any traction. And so now we've got a marketing challenge. Or we might be doing lots of music, but we don't have necessarily a great quality relationship, or we don't have the ability to manage the business side of things. So what we're going to do here is actually start to create a list of what our challenges are and the benefits to what's actually most important to us. And this is actually going to help bring inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, gratitude for the process of tackling an inspiring challenge. So we're going to list benefits of tackling your inspired challenges. Tip number 4 is to unlock your true potential by mastering the traits of the great. So this is not something I usually share in my public space. This is something that I do with my private coaching clients, but I'm going to share it today in its sort of basic essence. So whatever we see out there in the world, whatever we see in the people we most admire is actually just a reflection of us. And this is useful to understand because if we see things that maybe we like and we disown, or maybe there's things that we don't like and we also disown, we may be stopping ourselves from moving through next levels of our career. So the basic idea of this process is to basically own, love, and master the things that we see out there in the world inside ourselves. And we are ourselves to the degree that we love everyone and everything else and make that ourselves. So that might be, woo, Brad, what does that really mean? So what we would do is basically take somebody that you're really inspired by and then list their positive and negative traits as you perceive them. And then we're going to actually list where and who sees you do that in your unique way to the same degree. And we basically might list 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 ways in which you may express that thing. So if somebody has an amazing voice, you might list, where do I have an amazing voice? And it may not always be like, I have an amazing voice, but maybe I'm amazing at guitar playing, or maybe I'm amazing at teaching, or maybe I'm amazing at something else. So acknowledging your level of amazing. And if you do have a pretty good voice, who looks up to you? And so you may not have a world-class voice, but you may have a pretty good voice, and now we can build on that. And the same goes with a negative trait, is that we want to look, so somebody might be arrogant, somebody might be greedy, somebody might be controlling, or somebody might be, let's start with those three. So in somebody's story, I'm the villain in somebody's story. 100%, I cannot avoid that. So what we want to do here is actually see that I'm actually arrogant to the same degree as that person as well. So I'm like, all right, who's seen me be arrogant? I'm like, well, this person, that person, da 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 da, and I list their initials and when and where that happened, and I basically own that trait. And then once I've listed and actually owned it and started to see that I actually have that same trait in the same degree, then I go, what are all the benefits of actually having that certain brand of arrogance? So, arrogance is a useful tool in order to, say I got something and I want to get it to the people. And then sometimes you might annoy people, and then I get some feedback from that experience and then go, all right, cool, maybe I can do this a little bit better here and there. So everybody's got a little bit of arrogance, but once you actually start to own and see your own version of that, you're probably less likely to stall on something because you're actually confident that if you are arrogant or someone perceives you as being arrogant, they're going to win and you're going to win in some way, shape or form. So I've definitely found in my own life, and true of some of my clients, is sometimes we don't want to move through certain phases of our life because we're worried we're going to do something that somebody might have done to us in the past. So I'm happy to tell you that whatever your strategy is, you're not going to avoid any of those things. You're going to do it in some way. And yeah, sometimes we need a balance of all those things. We need arrogance and we need humility, and we need controlling, and we also need to be able to let go, and to be able to be a whole human being and be able to master and ebb and flow between all these different facets of who you are is a really, really powerful tool. So step 4 is to unlock your true potential by mastering the traits of the greats. If you need more information, very good. All right, so tip 5. We're getting there. Tip 5 is to get a coach or a mentor to guide and inspire you along your journey. Somebody that can help you discover some of the problems behind the problems, because I dare say in this video so far, you've probably realized that there are a few things that you're like, I didn't realize that was a thing. And so actually starting to realize, just like my coaches helped me, that there are some things that may be happening underneath the surface level in our unconscious or subconscious world that need to be looked at in order for us to move forward. So tip 5 is to get a coach or mentor to guide and inspire you. And that is why I've created my latest training called Happiness and Confidence Secrets for Musicians, which you can get below this, which has some really, really cool information on how to actually understand your priorities in there, how to master time management for musicians, how to avoid procrastination, and also how to write songs that stand out. So if that makes sense to you, please grab a copy of that. It's available at the moment for $7 to get the first level. There's a second level in there too called Confidence and Happiness Fundamentals, which will also be really helpful to help you understand this in a little bit more detail. Alrighty, so let's recap our 5 tips from today for what to do when you lose inspiration for music. Tip 1 is you never actually lose inspiration, it just transforms into something else. So just starting to acknowledge that something has shifted and maybe the thing that you wished you had is not actually important to you anymore. And wishing your life was a certain way is definitely the definition of suffering. So learning to appreciate who you are and where you're at is a really important part of the process. Tip 2 is to get clear with whatever is actually most important to you. What is your life actually demonstrating that's actually important to you at the moment? And list 4 to 5 things that you can stay focused on for hours and hours and hours, and no one has to remind you to do it, and that you're self-starting in those areas. So write down what those 4 or 5 things are for you. Tip 3 is to list the benefits of tackling your inspired challenges. So whether it's getting your first song finished, whether it's getting your first song online, whether it's getting your first performance started, whether it's releasing your first album, whether it's getting your artwork done, whether it's learning about marketing and business and sales and all of the other things and graphic design and that go along. By listing benefits of actually completing that task, generally your mind will start to go, actually, this is important and it needs to get done, rather than going, actually, this is dangerous and scary and I'm out. Tip number 4 is to unlock your true potential by mastering the traits of the great. So looking at the people most inspiring to you, identifying the things that you admire about them and the things that you despise about them. For anything admired, we own it, and then look at the downsides and then of whatever that trait is. And then if it's despised, where do I have it to the same degree? And then what are its benefits? And by balancing out our emotions gives us the ability to move forward in life and handle ever greater levels of challenge. And tip number 5 is to get a coach or mentor to guide and inspire you. If you are curious about maybe getting some help with your music career and avoiding self-doubt and overwhelm and creating more confidence than you ever thought possible so you can make music and make a difference, you can also book a call with me on the link below this video. Until next time, have a great afternoon, and I will see you on the next one. Make music, make a difference.